Valentine's Day, celebrated on February the 14th of each year, is a day dedicated to love, romance, and relationships. It's a time-honored tradition that transcends cultural boundaries and is celebrated in various ways around the world. Now, we asked you to tell us about some of the ways you celebrate Valentine's Day. This is what you said.
My name is Tina Mosesam. Val's Day means a lot to me. Though for me, every day, you have to show love every day for people you come across or people you meet. But I was thinking when I was younger, I used to, this enthusiasm was there, where I'll be expecting gifts from people and all that. But when I grew up, I realized that, okay, Val's Day is just a normal day like any other day. But that day, I don't do anything. But one significant thing I do is I send someone a gift, a chocolate. That's what I do on Val's Day.
I'm Meredith. Okay, for me, I think Val's Day means spreading love to all, and not only to your boyfriend or girlfriend, but to your family members as well. And then also on Val's Day, we share gifts like chocolates, teddy bears, and things. That's what I think about Val's Day.
My name is Grammys Tyla. I think the concept of Val's Day is nice. Personally, I don't think one day is enough for you to really express your love, but for the sake of it, I think it makes sense. At least there's a day where people go out of their way to really show whoever they care about that they matter. Personally, I don't celebrate Val's Day. Maybe I haven't been lucky.
It's just a day to share love, because there are obviously people who are not in romantic relationships. I buy chocolate for my daughters on Val's Day. And I think you can choose to meditate or, have a conscious thinking about how you can express love to anyone in the society or empathize with anyone in the society. So I think you can just choose Valentine's Day at least one day in the year where you can choose to show love to someone.
Up front on the Voice of America, my name is Jackson Punganyi. Thank you so much for joining us today. We are back, ladies and gentlemen. Due to popular demand, I have Mukbil Yabaro, Mike Hovey right here in Studio 56, and we have a couple of things to talk about. So, in no particular order of sequence, we're going to talk about music, sports, and let's start with AFCON. I think our last conversation was on AFCON. But I wanted to hone in on one particular issue, the technology and the officiating at this AFCON. They say it was top-notch, that other leagues are kind of learning from, AFCON on how to do things. Yeah. Talk to me. How did you see it?
Yeah, I personally think that this was one of the best officiated tournaments I've seen, personally. Just being there, watching the games and seeing it happen in real time, and you think to yourself, well, that was kind of a tough call, and then you rewatch it, VAR used the correct way. I literally don't know anybody who watched any of the games that said that there was any bad calls. Some of the calls were tough. If you were emotionally attached to a team, you may have felt a certain way in that specific moment. But when you watch it back simply from if you're looking at it from an unbiased side, great officiating. I think some of the bigger leagues in the, in Europe and such can literally learn from what the refs on the continent did for this tournament and their usage of VAR. Phenomenal usage. I
think AFCON has been around since 1957. It's older than many of these leagues in Europe that we see. The technology part has just really is recent in many ways, but they're doing it well.
Listen, man, when it comes to VAR, all I can say is this, right? I applaud it. Men lie, numbers lie, men lie, women lie, but VAR does not lie, right? So the interesting part about this, and I remember saying this on the pod, is especially that there's a game where the Bafana versus Morocco game. I was really blown away by how Morocco was so in line with the game. Their technical team had a laptop on the sidelines, bro. Everything by the moment, every call, like Mukbil said, I'm yet to see. They not a single person. Like, you could afford it, but like I said, VAR does not lie, right? Yeah. When you at every moment, I remember the Liverpool incident where they ignored VAR, right? This did not happen at AFCON. One thing they definitely made sure was the officiating was on par, up to standard. But that aside, when they knew any questionable thing, they consulted VAR and they did it perfectly. I haven't heard of a team that, outside of Senegal, that complained about, oh, we were cheated. No one else can say they were cheated at AFCON.
Moving away from VAR real quick, Mark Bill, in the past continental tournaments, we've seen that the hesitation among international African players coming back home to play. This time didn't seem like it was an issue. Why do you think so?
I think what we're seeing is a plethora of African stars dominating across the biggest clubs in the world. So when that happens, you can't get mad when a European player or a South American player wants to go back home for a tournament. Maybe it's not the World Cup, but it's, a continental tournament, whether it's the Euros or Copa. You don't get mad at that. So why get mad at an African player who wants to go back and play for AFCON? So I think now teams understand that, hey, and because AFCON also aligns with the Asian Cup as well, if you have players from Africa and Asia during a certain time, once every 2 years, you may be missing some key players, but what they do for you when they are around means more to elevate your team. So I don't think player or clubs anymore decide that they want to stay away from them. You still see a couple of big name clubs. Like Man City wasn't really affected a lot by it at all.
Man City has an A team, B team, D team, C team, F team.
Right? Who usually makes these decisions? Is this the player themselves or the club?
It's both. The player gets an opportunity to say, hey, yes, I want to go represent my nation. But at the same time, the club has to be willing to release you. Remember, the club is paying your salary, right? So it's usually both. But at the same time, also the federation has a say in it.
Right.
The federation has to say, hey, we want Jackson Bunganyi to come represent our country. The player says, yes, I want to go to the country. Then the team says, okay, you know what? At this point, we can release you for X amount of periods. But at the same time, remember, and this goes down to, for example, what happened with Mo Salah when he got injured. The club has a vested interest in that player, and so if something happens, the club
want him to be healthy.
They want to make sure that you're good, right? The minute AFCON ends, they want to make sure that you're in top shape. So it's a bargaining between all invested people in their party.
All right, so guys, let's switch it up real quick. Get into pop culture, music. One of the biggest musical events of the year we look forward to is the Grammys. This year they had a new category. Really kind of, you see the respect being accorded to African music and African musicians, putting them on the same pedestal as other musicians from around the world, including here in the US. The big category that we're watching had Burna Boy, had Tyla, had Davido, and Tyla came up. Tyla came up on top. It was best African music performance, which sometimes we keep confusing it as best Afrobeats or African music. But Tyla came up on top. What is your opinion on that? I feel like you might have a very different opinion from given your South African roots.
Listen, that was a very interesting pick. I'll openly say that. I think all parties that were invested in that situation, anyone could have won it. With Tyla winning it, I think it also comes back to a discussion of what does it mean to have a Grammy, right? How important is the Grammy? And another thing is, a lot of people got emotional. We don't even know how they got nominated to become part of that, right? There's so many other artists that could have been in that category, but they didn't make it.
Okay, so let's talk about the category. The people that were in there. Burna Boy,
right?
Great album,
right?
Silly Boy shouldn't have been in that category. You see what I'm saying?
Okay.
Like, there's so many other songs.
Let's go down again. Further down, Davido,
Unavailable.
I'm unavailable. You tell me how water beats unavailable.
Once again, listen.
Spicy.
The thing is, people don't realize we don't vote for it, right? There's a board that votes for it.
A board with their own biases.
With their own biases, with their own understanding of what African music is. Granted, I do applaud the fact that they're starting to incorporate more Africans in this decision making, but even then, it's not the everyday layman person that's saying that. And once again, to go back to Tyla, not to knock Tyla. Tyla's music was not as popular in South Africa as it was here in America, right? For example, It charted on the billboards, and everybody's happy. No South African will knock or say bad things about Tyla. But what I will say to you is, when you're when you're in the club or you're driving in South Africa and you cut the radio station, you're probably hearing Iplan Omnige first before you hear
These are
Water.
local artists.
These are local
Shouldn't you
artists.
have like a buy-in from your local constituency
Of
for you
course
to
you
blow?
should.
Absolutely, but I feel like because she is the new pop face, I think, of African music. You know, she was with Epic originally. I believe Sony just recently bought out her contract. Sony is invested in making sure that the continent is seen in a specific light, you know? She has the look that you would naturally think would come from a pop star, you know, so everything kind of works out in her favor, and it's digestible for the casual fan to be able to take in her music and then say, well,
that's casual American fan,
the casual international global fan.
Let's make that very clear.
To say she's a global star. I don't think she's a local star. She's very global in that, you know, you look at her and you hear her music and you say to yourself, okay, this is what a global artist should look and sound like, regardless of if she's from South Africa or if she was from New York City for real. You know, so because of that, I think that's what they're trying to push. So
they're pushing that mostly because of marketing
purposes.
I mean, when it comes down to it, that's why I said
Mm-hmm.
we need to go back and have an entire discussion about the Grammys, not just the African category. but
Absolutely.
There's so many other conversations behind that that just so happens to loop that. But when it comes down to it, it's about who can be easily marketed the best, right? And that's not to say that Davido, Burna Boy, Ashake, or any of the other people that were in that category cannot be marketed. But Tyla, in that moment, just so happened to be on top of the world. Everybody was singing "Make Me Wanna, Make Me Wanna." Like, and it's easy to sell that. Like,
so does African music need Grammy validation to be relevant?
Absolutely not.
No.
Absolutely not. That for me, we should have our own Grammys, right? We should have our own, because here's the thing, and I said this when everybody was celebrating the fact that we now have a category. I said, what exactly does this category mean? Because when it comes down to it, it just means you're getting validation within the U.S. market. That's it.
Right.
Now, granted, I remember growing up, every star, no matter how big you make it, you can make it big at home, make it big in Africa, make it big in the UK.
If you don't cross
it into America, they're like, are you really a star? I get that. But at the same time, I think one thing I do applaud of Davido, a Burna Boy, the way that they've navigated their careers are not seeking validation from a U.S. market. It just so happens that the U.S. market has gravitated towards them, but it's not pandering.
But in that same light, that's probably another reason why they maybe went towards a Tyla.
Of course.
Because it's like, okay, Burna
but Tyla wasn't pandering.
No, of course, no, she wasn't. No, I'm saying, but when you look at the Burnas and the Davidos, right, they kind of forcefully pushed their music down your throat in essence, and you kind of had to just take it in, whether or not the U.S. or the global society was ready for Afro at that time. You're gonna hear this, right? So because of that, what ended up happening is, you know, they got into their own spaces, and it's kind of like, I don't need the validation, but if I get it, thank you.
Right.
I'll
Let's
take
not
it.
forget that the reason why Afrobeat, you know, became this huge global force is because of the diaspora market.
Of course.
Okay.
More than anything.
Africans like ourselves in the diaspora,
More than
consuming,
anything.
you know, with our dollars, you know, amplifying the music, elevating it, taking pride in it.
Right.
Really, do we need any other demographic for that buy-in?
I mean, do we need them? No. Do we want them? Yes. Right. It's important that we have. I remember my sister recently went on vacation somewhere in Europe, or wherever, in Greece or something, and she was like, "Yo, I can't go anywhere. I'm here in Ruga." That for me was like, wait, Ruga? They don't even speak English there. What are you talking about? For me, that was impressive because it shows how the culture itself is gravitating. When hip hop was coming up, one of the most beautiful things as I started growing up and becoming an adult was seeing young Asian kids who can't speak English singing "I'll take you to the candy." For me, I was like, wait a minute. That for me is beautiful, and to now see young Asian kids, young black kids, young Latin kids singing "I need a boy," and that for me is like, oh, it's really beautiful to see how they're gravitating.
I need a boy and shayo. I saw a video of you know, young people in Indonesia in a club singing Terminator.
And then doing the whole
and with the whole dance. What?
Doing it better than
I
we would
remember
do it,
King
bro.
Promise like 2 years ago.
No.
Yeah, nobody knew him.
right.
And now this man
Right.
is already made inroads in one of
Right.
the. It's actually the biggest
Right.
market right
Right.
now.
Right.
And
Right.
if Afrobeats is able to make. Like it crosses, forget America. If it crosses into the Asian market,
That's
it's a wrap.
It's a wrap. Yeah.
So that's what I'm saying. I don't think it's a need, but it's important. So for me, I've always said, let's not try muscle and try to walk alone. Collaborate.
Yeah, collab.
Absolutely, collabos, and we've seen collabos. Nobody
They
does
work.
more collabos than Burna Boy.
They
this
work.
man has been hustling and working, hitting,
And it
You
works.
know,
Right.
and okay, so guys, we can talk Grammys all day. Let's switch it up back again into sports.
Let's
the
go.
NFL. The day we watched the AFCON finals,
Same
same day,
Super
the
Bowl.
Super Bowl
Yep.
finals were happening here. Big moment in sports history. But we've been hearing that the NFL, just like the NBA, is trying to expand into Africa. Does the continent have what it takes to host an NFL league? Do we have them? I mean, look at Mike. Mike has the body of an NFL player, right?
Mike's ready to go. Mike, sign Mike up for a 10-day. He's ready to
Let's
go.
go. Let's go.
I'm
Put me up. Sign me up, coach.
I'm his agent. I'll be taking 10%. No.
Are we ready to host a Super Bowl? I would say no.
Not the Super Bowl, the
just-
league.
just
Just
the
have a
league,
league.
Just
yeah.
host the league itself. I think. So here's the thing. I've seen more African faces in the NFL, which is showing that African players are more than capable.
125 players of African descent play in the NFL
Right.
currently.
Right.
Yeah.
So
How many of those players are from East
East
Africa?
Africa. I was gonna say.
I don't know about that, bro. Slow down. Slow down.
West Africa is heavily
West and
represented.
South can do
For
that.
sure. I mean, we know our place.
West
bro.
is more an NBA time.
We play basketball. We do long distance running.
Right. We have
Like,
our thing.
The football,
Don't
leave
mess
it
with
to
it.
us.
Yeah,
We're good.
sure,
We're good.
sure. No, but again, so for you to have an NFL team, the kind of infrastructure you need.
Right.
Okay.
Yeah.
Also, we're talking
money,
about the money.
So that's why I was
the
saying
athletic ability.
the athletic ability we
Is
have
there,
it.
right,
Right. I always say to people, and people think I'm crazy when I say this, if you can play rugby,
Yeah.
granted, they're two different sports.
You could play football.
But if you dedicate your time and energy, you can adapt to playing football.
For sure.
Right? Take that aside. So the athletic side is very possible. Now the financial side and the resource side is a whole different
Yeah,
conversation.
Yeah.
We're still trying to build the leagues that we're dedicated to.
Right.
I don't know if we have the finances to add another league.
But
and
if the
there.
NFL was to inject some cash, some resources,
Now that's a whole different ballgame.
do we have the caliber again of
Yes.
people
I think
that would fill these teams?
I think it's possible, but the problem is how dominant the game of football, world
Right.
football,
Right.
soccer, right, is on the continent, and how countries now have dedicated and are continuing to dedicate so much money to infrastructure there, and then how dominant a sport like a basketball is now, with the NBA kind of getting an early start in comparison to the NFL. We see certain games happening now in the NFL that go to Europe. They play in like
yeah.
London and stuff, and they're just starting to get excitement there. So if they've yet to develop infrastructure in Europe,
Yeah.
It's gonna be
bringing
a
it
while.
to Africa will be tough.
Yeah.
I think maybe having respective scouts,
Yes.
and maybe looking at, like you said, watching rugby players and maybe seeing, hey, this
can we
kid
take?
right here
Has potential.
he could play a DB line, or he could play a wide receiver. Maybe finding those type of players and kind of, in essence, really poaching them and bringing them over to the West could be possible.
Right.
But
Yeah.
I think infrastructure wise, it's a long shot.
So
I
we
think.
still have a long way to go.
I think it would work in certain countries. So like South Africa, it would work. But South Africa is so dominant in rugby that
Yeah.
for them to transition.
Or Ghana, because
Oh,
they had
exactly.
they had that commercial,
Right.
the first commercial shot on the
So-
continent.
I think it goes to that what Makbul just said, the willpower. Do we have the willpower? Football's so dominant. Basketball's trying to make inroads. Rugby's there. It's trying to expand. To add an NFL might be a
Listen,
little
Africa is the youngest continent. We do not
Very
have a
popular.
shortage of young
extra.
people.
And I'm sure there's more coming.
You're right. In terms of willpower, I think we do have willpower.
Right.
We have so many young people that are unemployed.
Right.
Imagine what a league like the NFL would bring.
Yeah.
The dollars that it would inject in our economies.
But also on the flip side, though, the NFL of the 4 major sports, whether it's basketball, NBA, NFL, MLB, and hockey. Least pay.
Yeah.
Least pay and the most brutal force.
Absolutely.
So it's kind of like if I'm a kid and I'm looking at it, I'd rather play soccer,
right?
And barely get touched and make some mills,
Let's switch it up. We're about to start Basketball Africa League coverage here on the Voice of America. By the way, Mike and Mukbil will be joining us, so we'll be hosting some of those episodes. We'll start in South Africa. I think the finals again will be in Kigali, Rwanda. But here in the US, we had the NBA All-Star Game. I feel like it's one of those events that, most people don't even know that has happened unless you're a big fan of the NBA. Now, for us who watch, the NBA, we know that it did happen. There's a lot of excitement around it, but there's also been a lot of criticism of late of whether this is relevant, when you see the things that they do during the All-Star Game. Did you watch the All-Star Game? What did you think this year?
I did watch.
Tell the truth.
I watched a part of it because, to be honest with you, bro, it was not exciting because these are a ton of players, all-star level, that we love to watch when they play on their teams. They're giving all of their effort. I feel like the All-Star Game at one point used to be a game where the best of the best showcased, I'm better than you.
Yeah.
Mano a mano, I'm going to guard you, you're going to guard me, and I'm going to show you that I'm better than you. That will kind of has gone away from the game. It's become almost more of a spectacle.
Like a marketing gimmick of some sort.
And guys are just like, we talk about this in the NFL where the Pro Bowl has always been a relative joke, really, because it's not a serious game.
Yep.
The All-Star Game was maybe even
serious.
a decade ago was a very serious game.
The days of Kobe Bryant.
Absolutely, right. So then you now get to this level now where a bunch of the guys are just, they're no longer even happy to play with each other, because when you have an opportunity to play, you got Steph, LeBron and LeBron, KD, and Steph on the same team, and you guys are not showing a level of excitement where, man, let's go out there and get these guys. That team loses to the East.
Do you think for us as viewers, psychologically, we're thinking that's just overload, having those 3 big superstars on one team?
First of all, you guys sound like old heads.
Yes.
but
I don't know what we said.
You start talking about Kobe. I'm waiting for y'all to say during Jordan's time.
No, during Wilt Chamberlain's time.
Yeah, listen, Kobe is a legend, okay?
I'm not taking it.
No Kobe slander.
Yeah, no Kobe slander.
But to go to that, I do agree that it is overload. And I think, so I actually watched the full.
He enjoyed it.
I enjoyed it. But for different reasons. I do agree in terms of the value or the competitiveness is a little different. I like the fact that there were almost 400 points that were there. I like watching Damian Lillard banking from anywhere.
Yes,
It's like he was like, all right, let me just. And I like seeing that. But I do agree that the passionate NBA follower in me was like, okay, there's no competitiveness. This was just, you score, here you go. It's almost like they were like, you score, so I can get back. Instead of trying to D you up and get the rebound.
What's the value in it for me watching? Because I can see you playing on a regular basis with your team. And
I know what you can do.
Well, I know what you can do. You're not showing me anything new here.
I think the All-Star Game for me, it goes down to that is now just the marketability. Is that we have the who's who, any star you can think of is here. Right. If I'm trying to buy into this, the idea is to sell what the NBA should be.
But Mike,
to the layman person.
My question to you then would be, what's so entertaining about it now? The dunk contest for the last 3-4 years has been terrible.
Don't even get me started on this.
The skills challenge is not fun. The most exciting thing about this All-Star weekend was Sabrina versus Steph.
Yeah, absolutely.
Which was a great aspect, and that helped.
And a great moment too.
And what it did was it showcased that the women's game is up there too.
It's evolving.
Sabrina could shoot. She was shooting NBA 3-point line. She wasn't shooting from the WNBA line. She was shooting from the NBA line, and kind of put Steph on a little notice. Steph came out and really had to ball. He couldn't just do it with his eyes closed or shoot left-handed. He had to play serious. So for me, it's like, get more of those type of things. We were talking off air earlier. I think the East versus West game needs to incentivize to the players to play serious. If something along the lines of maybe whatever team wins, maybe they can have the finals, the NBA finals, home court advantage. So the way that it is right now, Boston Celtics have the best record in the league. So if they go into the finals against anybody, they will get home court advantage. But let's say if the West won this year, the West All-Stars would have won and given the advantage for the NBA Finals to the West,
Yeah.
even regardless of the record of that West team. I think that would now force the All-Stars
To actually
to actually
ball up.
play, because we're thinking long game.
Yeah.
We want to make it to the finals, and when we get there, we need to be able to do it. Or another suggestion could potentially be
Money.
maybe certain. How about every All-Star gets a certain amount of money allocated to their favorite charity?
Yes, absolutely, absolutely. That's
know?
a good incentive right
Yeah,
there.
Adam Silver.
Absolutely.
Call
So, I mean, we would love to see it more competitive than
Yeah.
like it was
Yeah,
back
yeah,
in the
yeah,
day.
yeah, yeah.
But again, everything comes down to like these days everything is about marketing and stuff. But do you think maybe the coaches are telling these players don't go out there and get injured?
Of
For
course.
sure, for sure. That's an investment. Your investment is this player. If Jason Tatum and Jaylen Brown, your
Got injured in the
entire
All-Star game?
these
Like
are your
what?
franchise players. If they go out, if one of them goes out for an extended period of time, Celtics team is done.
Yeah.
Tatum is out for 3 to 4 weeks. They're not the top team in the East. They can get pushed down to 3-4. If he gets hurt for longer, let's say he, God forbid, knock on wood, if anybody gets a season-long injury, you see what's happening to Joel Embiid right now.
Yes.
The Philadelphia 76ers have dropped
Absolutely,
incrementally.
absolutely.
And this
And
is
they were doing really well
the
before
reigning
he got
MVP.
injured. Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
So
But I don't even think that it's the coaches. The players themselves feel
Yeah.
that way.
Yeah.
I think once again, it's exciting to be like, oh, I'm around my peers.
Right.
But at the same time, they also understand the
what's the
ramifications.
value of
Yeah,
this?
If I
there
tear
is-
my
there we
Achilles
go.
right now,
Right.
what is the value of this? I'm out the whole season.
But
for
Mike,
the All-Star game.
that's the thing though. There is no more value in winning the All-Star game MVP,
I agree,
right?
yeah, I
Like
agree.
you look at Dame Lillard, sure he got the All-Star. Did we feel like he did something spectacular to get it?
No.
Not necessarily.
He
You know,
he balled out, but he didn't get.
he didn't.
He didn't get challenged.
I don't
Put it
even.
that way.
I don't even think Dame sweat to get it.
Yeah,
I think he
yeah.
worked harder on the 3-point contest. You know, like so. My thing is like, if there's no reason for that, then you think to yourself as a player, why would I go out and get hurt for something that doesn't really mean much nowadays? But if it meant something, they would
That's
go
a
out
whole
there and
different
get it.
ballgame.
Yeah.
Absolutely. Mukbil Yabaro, Mike Hovey. I know
My
you
man.
guys, we could talk
Yes.
forever, especially when I get you into sports.
Absolutely.
But BAL is about to start very soon, and you'll be seeing these two every day until you say.
With you too, man. Don't
With me.
exclude yourself. He trying to leave us. He trying to
Gentlemen,
leave us.
thank you so much for
He tryna
coming
leave us.
through. Always
Yes, bro.
fun.
Always, my brother.
Salute everybody.
Appreciate it. Yep.
We'll catch you. Remember, connect with us at voaafrica.com. My name is Jackson Vunganyi. Let's connect again next week. Goodbye, everyone.